Captain Sarah Chen had flown 1,000 missions, but tonight felt different. The dark sky stretched endless above her fighter jet as she cut through the clouds over enemy territory. Her hands gripped the controls steady and sure. Her heart beat like a drum inside her chest. Beside her, somewhere in the darkness, flew her wingman, Captain Marcus Webb. They had trained together for 5 years. They trusted each other with their lives. Before we begin, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Then everything changed.
Bandit coming in hot.
Marcus's voice crackled through Sarah's headset, sharp with alarm. Seconds later, a surface-to-air missile streaked across the night sky like an angry comet. Sarah watched in horror as it found its target. Marcus's jet flashed bright orange as the missile hit. The explosion lit up the darkness like a terrible sunrise. Sarah's throat tightened. Her mind raced. She wanted to scream, but training made her stay silent. Protocol demanded she return to base. Protocol demanded she leave him behind. But Sarah had never been good at following the rules. Marcus, do you read me? She called out, her voice shaking. Static answered her. Then finally a weak response came through. Eject. I'm hit. Going down. Marcus's words faded in and out like a broken radio. He was alive. Barely, but alive. Sarah made her decision in that moment. She turned her jet around and pushed the throttle to its limits. The engine roared like an angry beast. Warning lights flashed on her dashboard. Fuel low, storm coming in, military orders explicit. None of it mattered. Marcus had saved her life 3 years ago when her own jet lost power over the mountains. He had guided her down to safety, talking her through every second. He had risked everything for her. Now it was her turn. The ground below was rough and dark. Sarah used her infrared camera to spot the wreckage. There it was, twisted metal burning against the black landscape. She spotted Marcus's emergency beacon blinking in the distance. He was alive down there, waiting, hoping. Sarah radioed for backup, but the response made her stomach drop. All rescue helicopters were grounded because of the approaching storm. The controller's voice was firm and final. Captain Chen, return to base immediately. That's an order. Sarah switched off her radio. If she couldn't hear the order, she couldn't disobey it, she told herself. It was the kind of logic that got soldiers court-martialed. Sarah landed her jet on a flat stretch of desert, the wind already starting to pick up. She grabbed her emergency pack and ran toward the beacon, sand whipping against her face. The storm was coming faster than anyone predicted. Lightning cracked across the sky like nature's own weapon. She could barely see 10 feet ahead. Then she saw him. Marcus was sprawled beside a large rock, his left leg bent at an angle that made Sarah's breath catch. He looked up at her with eyes full of pain and disbelief. What are you doing here? You're supposed to be back at base, he shouted over the howling wind. Shut up and let me help, Sarah said, kneeling beside him. She wrapped his injured leg with strips from her medical kit, her fingers working quickly even though they shook. Marcus grabbed her hand. They'll court-martial you for this, Sarah. This is crazy. You broke every rule in the book. Sarah looked into his eyes. Rain started to fall, cold and hard. I know, she said. But I wasn't leaving you out here. She helped Marcus onto her shoulders and they struggled back toward the jet. Every step was hard. The wind pushed against them like an invisible enemy. The storm raged like it was trying to keep them from escaping. They reached the jet just as lightning struck a dune near them, the explosion knocking them both forward. Sarah scrambled into the cockpit with Marcus, firing up the engines as the storm screamed around them. The jet lifted off just as the wind reached its most violent. Sarah fought with the controls every single second, sweat running down her face. The instruments showed damage from the lightning strike. The hydraulics were failing, but somehow through pure will and skill, Sarah kept that jet in the sky. She flew blind through the storm, trusting nothing but her instincts and muscle memory. After what felt like hours, the storm passed. Stars appeared above them like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Sarah guided the crippled jet toward the nearest Allied base, her voice steady as she talked to the tower. They landed hard, bouncing twice before finally stopping. Military personnel rushed out, finding Sarah and Marcus slumped in the cockpit, exhausted and shaking. Marcus was rushed to the hospital. His leg was broken in 2 places, but he would walk again. He would fly again. The military inquiry lasted 3 weeks. Sarah knew what was coming. Dismissal, a court-martial, the end of everything she had worked for. But something unexpected happened. The general who led the inquiry looked at her with something like understanding in his eyes. You broke protocol, Captain, he said. You disobeyed direct orders. You risked a valuable military asset, but you also saved the life of one of our finest soldiers. In war, sometimes the rules exist to guide us, not to trap us. You made a choice. You chose your brother in arms over your own career. That's not something we punish. That's something we remember. Sarah walked out of that hearing not in chains, but with a reprimand on her record and a second chance at her life. Marcus recovered completely. A year later, he and Sarah flew again as wingmen. And every time they launched into the sky, they carried with them the memory of the night when one pilot broke every rule that mattered to save the pilot beside her. Because in the end, loyalty and courage are the only rules that truly count.